Welcome to the Vernon Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Vernon, joined by my guy, G.
You know it.
Glad to have him in the building. Guess what? LSU victory. It was scary in the beginning. It's been scary for the last couple of weeks, quite frankly. But guess what? A win is a win is a win. Couple of takeaways I have. Big performances. Garrett Nussmeier, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, had a phenomenal game. Josh Williams, 60 yards on the ground, 4.8 yards per carry. Got himself a touchdown. Really thrilled to see that running game kind of start to blossom a little bit. The receiving game, Mason Taylor needs his flowers first and foremost. 10 targets, 8 receptions, 77 receiving yards, 10 yards per reception on average. Coach Kelly kind of mentioned over the last couple of weeks, we got to get him incorporated more. We got to get him in a situation where he's targeted, he's getting his looks. Yeah, he was having, 4 or 5 catch games over the last few weeks, but continuing to add on to the targets, continuing to put him in a position to make plays. He's really a surefire guy. You throw it his way, 9 times out of 10, or in terms today, 8 times out of 10, he's coming down with it. It's big plays, it's big moments. I mean, he was thrusted into this role as a freshman, making the biggest play right here in the end zone in front of us. Yep. I mean, he really made his name, and you said he was the all-time receiver.
Yep, shout out to Mason, man, for becoming an all-time leading receiver and an all-time leading tight end in receiving yards in LSU history, man. He bursted onto the scene since his freshman year. He's been ultra consistent, and that's why Coach Kelly been alluding to getting him more involved in the offense, because on third down you can rely on number 86, man, and he's just been so consistent. Proud of that guy. Garrett Nussmeier, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he got the ball to maybe 7 to 8 different receivers. He spread it around really, really well. That's going to be hard for defensive coordinators to game plan for when you got so many different people you have to game plan for. I was very, very strategic, I think, on Joe Sloan and on Garrett Nussmeier's part. Shout out to the defense in the second half. It was 17-17 at the half. Shut them out in the second half, right? Blake Baker did a great job of making some adjustments and getting pressure on the quarterback. Swinson, he's keeping his hot streak up, man. He's been the most consistent pass rusher on his team. He had a hell of a game once again.
Yep.
Savion Jones, he might not have the sacks, but he's getting a lot of quarterback pressures. He's been disruptive in the run game, and I think Savion Jones and Swinson coming off the edge together is going to pay big dividends for the Tigers going forward, man. Shout out to them, man. They played a big part into why UCLA's quarterback was in such a disarray in that second half.
Yep, and if you look at the stats, man, the rushing yards for UCLA, 18. LSU was allowing 150-plus rushing yards. Last week, they gave up over 200. It's been like one of their sore spots, if you will, on defense. Today, they didn't even let them get 2 first downs with the ground. Yeah, the passing game kind of got active, but LSU side crossed the century mark in the run game. You're kind of seeing that blossom, which is good. The time of possession battle was won. Only 5 penalties today, and hey, that's something to be proud of, because LSU's kind of been lacking on that side. No turnovers, very, very, very pivotal. And another person I want to give credit to, Aaron Anderson, because there was times where people were doubting, people were skeptical, people were wondering if he was going to be able to take this role and the opportunity that was inevitably going to come this year. I feel like he's been taking it in stride. Today, 6 catches, 75 receiving yards. It's going to continue to add on to his season total, which has him leading LSU's wide receiver room, and he's kind of been one of the more underrated, unsung heroes of this team, if you will. There's been a couple of moments, even with C.J. Daniels. Of course, Kyron Lacey had some good opportunities. I feel like, like what G was saying, you got all these talent, you got all these players, you got all these opportunities for all these people. It's a headache, if you will, to try to scheme every single person out of this game. It's almost impossible. Then on the other side, the defense is creating havoc, getting turnovers, making just about everything impossible. So, I mean, the confidence for that team kind of just started to fade away really over the second half. But shout out to UCLA, because they brought it. They were 25-point underdogs to open up the line. They had only 2 touchdowns on the year entering this game. They come into Tiger Stadium, have a really good start, and I was kind of impressed. I'm not going to lie. Final score 34-17. Of course, there's some things you want to clean up, but heading into a South Alabama game and then inevitably the bye week after that, I feel like LSU's kind of in the best spot you could be theoretically with the USC loss heading into the Ole Miss matchup. I mean, you got a lot of things, obviously, you're going to have to work on, a lot of things that you're going to want to see. First and foremost, you're going to want to see them start faster. They have to start faster. One of our other keys, we wanted the defense to seize their opportunities, seize their moments. Don't mess anything up. Don't be consistently inconsistent where, you have your string of 5 to 6 plays, and then on a big third down or, a big moment, you let one slip through the cracks. Today, I feel like they did their job. There's a couple of good moments. A couple of people got banged up, though, so I want to know what that injury report's looking like going forward. I believe Jordan Gilbert went down, came back in. Same thing for Emory Jones, came down, went back in. I don't think Zy Alexander went back out there. That's going to be an interesting injury to monitor, as well as Harold Perkins Jr. He went down, had a big hit, and then he just laid down. Looked like, you said, a knee?
Yeah, I thought it was his head, but when he got up, he was grabbing his knee. Then when I looked at the replay in the press box, his knee definitely buckled after the hit. So hopefully it's not nothing serious.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers with number 14 and number 7. I'm thinking, you know, this defense in this situation, though, they're turning a lot of heads. I mean, this time last year, a lot of people were having all kind of issues. You know what I mean? You had a lot of things that you had to stop the bleeding, if you will. Now, I mean, you're in a situation where, and yeah, you scored 34 points, and yeah, the offense looks good, but sometimes you're worrying more about the offense than you're worrying about the defense. The defense is getting the offense the ball back. The defense is, you know, making crucial stops and crucial moments. And I'm not saying the offense was horrible by any stretch of the imagination. Your quarterback's throwing for over 70% completion, over 300 yards, and another game with 3 touchdowns. That's going to keep him at the top of the leaderboard, top 2, top 3 in the country. So when you're in that type of conversation, I feel like you're obviously doing something right. However, they could be that much better. This offense could get an extra touchdown or 2. Last week in South Carolina, they left, 14, 15 points on the field. Today, kind of something similar. But, I mean, as you keep stacking days, as you keep having these moments, I think you're going to continually to get better. South Alabama, it's going to be something interesting. You're not going to be able to just sleep on them, if you will. They've had 2 games. One of them was 89. One of them was 67. I mean, this defense is going to have one of their biggest tests, if you will, next week.
Talking to Joe Sloan right after the game, man, he's such a perfectionist, right? He thought they should have scored 40 plus tonight, maybe even 50. He felt like they left 14 to 21 points out there on the field, man, with a big drop on 3rd down by Kyron in that first half. He had some 3rd down opportunities in the back of the end zone where most people feel like that was pass interference, but, you know, Joe Sloan has high expectations for Kyron, and he holds him to a certain standard. He felt like he should have still came down with those catches. But that's just Joe Sloan. You know, he wants this offense to be hitting on all the highest cylinder because he knows what's ahead when you go against these Ole Miss and the Alabamas of the world. So, but I think the offense is doing a really good job. Like I alluded to, man, Gary Nussmeier continues to impress me. What everybody was wondering coming into the season, he was a risk taker, a gunslinger. Was he going to try to force it into these windows? He's been doing a great job of not turning the ball over, checking the ball down, taking what the defense giving him, and taking his shots when he can. I think Gary Nussmeier surprised a lot of people. Not that he doesn't have the ability, just with the decision making. I think throwing for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks, that's big for Joe Sloan and that offense going forward. And the way he spread it around to all them different receivers, man. And you see the defense catching up a little bit, you know, shutting UCLA out in the second half. I think they're trending in the right direction. But like you say, they still got some things they need to clean up on if they want to beat Ole Miss in a couple weeks.
I'm glad they got that bye week after South Alabama. That's going to be something that plays into their favor. First, you're in Tiger Stadium, first and foremost. That's the biggest thing playing to your favor. Second thing is going to be the fact that you're coming off a week of rest, a week of preparation, extra week, if you will. And Ole Miss has played consecutively, 6 games at that point? Hopefully it plays into their favor, and I'm thinking LSU's in a situation where they could be in a shootout, but we're going to get a pretty good litmus test next week, if you will. That's one of the more high-powering, explosive offenses, and hey, Coach Kelly warned you about it at SEC Media Days. He said South Alabama isn't going to be just a walk-over, push-over game. It's going to be something you might have to work for a little bit. We saw Nichols score 3 touchdowns. We saw UCLA score 17 points in 15 minutes or 25 minutes. South Alabama might be a little bit of a test.
One thing about this team, and I think Coach Kelly's going to have, and his staff going to have to do a good job of, is keeping this team understanding the grand scheme of things. And you can't take anybody lightly. I don't care what the spread is. You got to treat everybody like they're an SEC opponent, because when you take days off, like I felt like they came into this game not that motivated to go against UCLA. And I think that's why you saw such a slow start. This staff going to have to find different ways to keep this team motivated. And that's crazy I'm saying that because we're talking about LSU, and the standard is the standard. But, you know, this is a different time, different team than we used to seeing it from the 2019 team and years before. And so they just got to do a great job of finding different ways to get this team playing at a higher level. And I know part of it's playing a lot of young guys, right? Ahmad Bro playing. Dominic McKinley got a lot of time today as a true freshman. Deshaun Spill's been playing a lot. P.J. Woodland, Tre'Davious Green. I could go on and on. Jawan Johnson, about so many young players are playing. And I think, you know, that lack of experience probably plays a factor into when you see some mishaps during the game. But I think as time goes on, you're going to see this team get better and better, especially that defense. I love what Blake is doing. Look, for all the people that's talking about the LSU defense, and you got all this negativity to say about Blake Baker, you don't know football, because he's doing a great job for what he has personnel-wise, all right? At the end of the day, the writing's on the wall. They got to get better players on defense. But for what they have, I think Blake Baker is doing a great job, and I think this defense only going to get better. Hopefully the Harold Perkins injury is not too serious. And if it is, it's going to have to be a next man up mentality. I think we'll be able to get something shortly from the coaching staff on Harold Perkins and how serious his injury was. But hopefully he'll be back sooner than later.
We'll give you an update throughout this week. We'll find some time. If you have any questions, any concerns, anything on your mind, drop them in the comment section below. We'll get back to them. We'll pop them up on the screen, have a nice little reaction piece to any of your thoughts. This has been the Verdant Verdict with my guy G.
You know it.
Glad we got a W. W is a W.
Take it any way you can get it.
We'll see you next Saturday after South Alabama. Hopefully, another W. Y'all have a good one.
Hopefully my voice is back.
Yeah.